What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Swole Friends podcast, episode 40. 40 is a big number. I know we've taken a little bit of a break from our normal videos and interviews and audio recordings that we normally do here on the channel. I definitely want to thank all of our viewers and our listeners for hanging in with us throughout the transition. As anyone can see behind me, if you're watching the YouTube, I have a new background. I have a new room that I'm doing this in, which is actually really exciting. We have a totally new we moved our building. So our new HQ here in the Reno Tahoe area, which is why it has taken me a few months to get situated. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging in for the bumps along the way. But if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Alex. I am the co-founder of Swole Marine, as well as the owner of the Swole Kitchen, where we do nutrition coaching. And today I'm so excited to bring our guest to the show, Coach Matthew Bryant. So Matt is the owner and the head coach at Golden Line Training. If you guys are not familiar with Golden Line Training, they are a premier training group of coaches in the functional fitness space who coach individuals and teams athletes to pursue their ultimate potential within functional fitness at every level, ranging from your local competition all the way into the CrossFit Games. Coach Matthew has actually led over 9 different athletes to their CrossFit Games appearances, or 9 times appearances there, which is pretty impressive, especially as a younger coach in the space, which Matt, you can correct me on if I'm wrong there, but today we're going to talk about tips, tricks, and advice. It's also the Monday before the West Semifinals. So we've had some semifinals conclude. We have a couple more coming up this weekend. We have another one next week, the weekend following. So we're going to get into all of that and give you guys some really solid one-on-one time with this very, very accomplished professional on the episode. So Matthew, hopefully that was okay for your introduction. It's really nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I always, I like what you do. I like your energy. You just seem like super on top of everything all the time. And I love when people are on top of things. So you like sent me all this stuff. I'm like, man, this is great. So thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty big deal to me to have you. For anyone who doesn't know, Coach Matthew works with Abby Delmit and Julia Cook, who are 2 Swole Marine athletes. He's also taken quite a few other athletes that you probably follow or watch on social media to their, ultimate potential. But oh my gosh, where do we start? So let's just start about current affairs. I mean, I'm getting anxious for semifinals. Are you getting anxious for semifinals? Have you had anyone compete yet? Let's talk about floor layouts, what you learned from watching this last weekend that you're taking into the next weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have some serious, we're in the thick of it, I've been in Texas now for almost a month. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it happened. I just ended up getting a big group of people in Texas. So we have the team at Einhorn CrossFit, finished 8th in quarterfinals. We have Abby Delmit finished 2nd in the West. Traven Benton, 11th in the West, and Jamie Hygia finished, at 39, major comeback. We can talk about that later, which is super cool. I've been a friend of hers for a long time. So we're in the thick of it. And then we've got Rachel Fricker over in the East. And so we were glued to the Europe, Asia semifinals and just ready to roll. And, like I said, been in the thick of it. I've been in Texas for over a month, just dialing things in with the individuals and the team. The team's super interesting because they, 2 of them have kids. And so the only time we can all get together is at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And so we've been hammering that out. And then Traven comes and then Abby comes. And so, by the time 2:00 rolls around, I've been in the gym, for 10 hours. And then I got to go do my regular thing, which is mostly remote coaching individuals. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We're in the thick of it. And we learned a ton from the Europe semifinals. And, every time the first one goes, then the second one, they know, they have little rule changes and they kind of clean it up a little bit. So you just always have to be on your toes and ready to roll. So
what did you think about releasing the workouts early? What, from a coaching perspective, right? That's new.
Yeah.
Here's here's what we're doing.
Totally. That's a really good question, because it's as a coach that's been coaching functional fitness, the sport of fitness, CrossFit, whatever you want to call it, for a long time. I actually love training athletes for the unknown, right? It's not like snatch and clean and jerk. You don't know what you have. So I love the creativity that goes into that. I love checking in with athletes and knowing all their different weaknesses and strengths and things like that. So when they released them really early, I was kind of like, oh man, it kind of takes away from the fun a little bit of like the unknown. Coach, right? Like a selfish coach, but I was super stoked they released them, because now we know them. Now we can train them. Now we can, who's got the volume built up to go through these multiple times, who needs to break them up and train them a certain way. What ones do we need to focus on? And everybody's just so completely different that it's a beautiful thing. And it was funny because it was like, I got here and then like a day or two later, they released them. So it's like, okay, sweet. Let's go.
Time to party.
Yeah, totally. But the whole leak thing, I don't know how I feel about that. It's interesting. A leak has never been wrong. There's been a lot of leaks in CrossFit, but it's never been wrong. So, it's just one of those things. Every year, you're just kind of like ready for something completely different. I've coached every single online open and people to the regionals back in the day and to the games, and not one has been the same at all. So
It's kind of fun that way though, right? Like the variety of it. And
I love it,
it that way. Sometimes it's like, screw this, I don't want to do this, but
yeah, sport we chose, like you really just can't waste any time complaining about anything ever, because it is what it is, and you just have to adapt. And I think that's what's kept me in the game so long, is like I love that aspect of it, in adapting, and the fluidity of the sport and the fluidity of the athletes, and matching their abilities and weaknesses and strengths and lifestyle, and that fluidity fitting into what they need to do to accomplish what they say they want to accomplish. That's what I love to do. So
yeah, that's pretty unique. And in the beginning, I said that Coach Matt is a younger coach in the space, which I shouldn't have said that the way I did, right? I mean, like, you're younger age-wise, right? But you've also been in the space for a while, and I think that you really have been picking up some steam, I guess you could say, on social media, right? So someone's like, oh, Coach Matthew, who's Coach Matthew? But then when you start to actually talk to people in person, you're like, oh, I know Matt. You don't know Matt? What's wrong with you?
Sure.
So we had the opportunity to cross paths at semifinals last year, which was really fun. And so that's where the Swole friend connection comes from. But you had mentioned being in the space through the online competitions and whatnot. What do you think, or do you have an opinion on regionals versus semifinals versus kind of the qualification process for the games? Like, what have you noticed through the years? What do you like? What don't you like?
Whew, that's a big one. Yeah. Whew, yeah, that's wild. Because, doing this, for a long time, and I competed and went to regionals in 2013 and did the regional thing as an athlete, and coached a lot of athletes to the regionals. And, that was fun. The open was wild. The first open was 6 weeks, and they had a delayed week, and which was like the longest stressful period. And then it was 5 weeks, and then it was, so the evolution of the 3-week open and going to semifinals and things like that. My short answer is like, I wish I had more say, but I don't. So I can't be too picky. I just have to be ready for whatever they throw at me. But the little bit longer answer would be like, I would love to have the sport, choose my words right here, because the English for it's a little funky. It's like, I would like the sport to become extremely professional. Like, I would love it's the hardest sport in the world, and there's no off season, and these guys every single person on the team has a job and kids. you come across a few athletes every once in a while that can do it full time. And, you know, I want these athletes to be able to see and reach their full innate genetic potential for the good of the sport, and the sport would, you know, kind of prevail from that. So whatever that looks like, you know, I'm not going to claim I have the answer to that. I'm not going to claim in-person stuff is the way to go, although in-person stuff is, you know, it's like a tennis match, and like, you know, calling the lines and the, you know, the whole quarterfinals thing, we might talk about that in a little while, was pretty wild. But you know, I just want the athletes to be really taken care of, and I do think some stability and some repetition, at least in, you know, finding out that it's going from 60 to 40 in the West and the East, it's like that's kind of crushing for some of those people on the cusp. And one of my favorite thing to do is work with people on the cusp and get them in, because that the intricacies that, you know, have that or are in that are really fun. So I don't know if I have like an answer to the question, but for me, like, I would love to see it just be some consistency. Obviously, we're going to have the unknown and unknowable, and that's what keeps it fun. But some consistency and trying to move to some sort of in-person competition, maybe a little bit sooner if we could do that. Or we have so many. We have Rogue Invitational, we have Wadapalooza, we have these big competitions now. So we'll see. I think this next year is going to be really, really different. I always kind of say, like, it's like a 4-year block. It's like every 4 years there's a big change, and it seems like on the 4th year, like, a lot of people get really upset, you know, and then they're like, okay, well, let's change it or whatever, you know. I don't know what's up with that, but what do you think?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of up or down. I like in person, but I like the availability too. I mean, the beauty of online anything is that you can have more people participate, right? You can have more people be a part of it and have like that worldwide community. But I will say, like, on the Wolverine side of things, like, not having as many events to go to, or at like the lower level or middle level, not just the high, like Wadapaloozas and things like that. I miss it. I miss like the camaraderie and like the micro communities a lot. You know, but at the professional level, I think there's a lot to, with it being so variable, it's, you just have to adapt all the time. It's kind of one of those things, like, if you have enough time to kind of really pick apart and complain and find the negatives, you know, unless that's your path with it and that's what you do for what you do, which there are people who do that and they do it well, like, then you might not be focusing on yourself enough, right? Or your team or your clients, your customers, or your products. So you know, I guess, like, from my side of things, it's a little different. I think the consumer has also changed in the sport, especially with like the rise of high rocks and things, you know. But do you coach anyone for high rocks, or have you had anyone come to you for that yet?
Yeah, I've coached a couple of people for high rocks, which it's super fun, and you kind of you know what they're going to do, kind of like we got the workouts, but you know all the time, and it's like, you know, if you know what you're going to do and you know principles of, you know, strength and conditioning, and, you know, really well, and you can put the principles together and really peak those people in, and it's, I mean, it's fun. I think CrossFit's harder to do because you don't know what you're going to do, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's fun. I like it. And it's, I mean, I think it's going to blow up. It's been kind of fun because it reminds me of old CrossFit, like when I competed, because I'm not built for the sport at all. I just, for some reason, really love it. Like, but I'm so not built for the sport, but like, you know, back in 2013, like, I had a shot, you know, and
let's do those biceps, Matt. Let's do
no, easy killer. No.
Just teasing.
That is kind of my workout though. Like, Abby's working out and she gets done with the barbell, and I'm like, well, I'll do a couple power cleans and a couple deadlifts, and then when I go over, I, like, you know, I pick up and do a set of 15 bicep curls or some pull-ups. That's like coach's workout at this point right now, is doing that kind of stuff. So
well, and I mean, I think that's an interesting segue too. Like, being a coach is hard, and I think a lot of people don't know that. Maybe like people watching this or who are listening, tell me, like, I mean, you're in person with these athletes. You don't just have one athlete on the track, so to speak, right? We don't. Oh, Antunes here. Hi. But you don't have just one athlete. I mean, you're at semifinals and you're running around with the chicken with your head cut off. I mean, I think I know I saw you last year. You had like beads of sweat running on your head. I smacked you on the shoulder and I was like, "Hi," and you're like, "Hi, I gotta go." And I was like, "Okay, bye." Like,
Right.
what is
Yeah.
that like? I mean, it's stressful. You're a team mom. You're handing out food. You're handing out electrolytes. You're handing out high fives. You're taking care of people crying. You're also telling them, cheering at them and screaming at them. Like, give me your perspective of what it's like to coach at some of these bigger events, not just for one athlete, but many.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that I've learned over the years is to just really stack your support really well. It's funny, Anton just popped up, but Anton, Abby has Anton, and we figure out how to get the coaches passes organized. So like they've got their support on that. And then that way I can run back and forth and do all this stuff. But, the life of an online remote coach, it's like a lot of people ask me like, wow, how did you get that job? Like, how did you, it must be the life. You can do it anywhere and this and that. And, like grass is always greener on the other side, man. Like
hair is falling out.
It's like, yeah, that's why I wear hats all the time. Right. No, it's for real. You have to be crazy. You have to love it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing is like, I fell in love with the process because I was intrigued by everything. And we can talk about all that stuff and go down that rabbit hole here in a little while. But I'm relentless, like I'm right there matching the relentlessness of these athletes trying to accomplish incredible things. And it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of things. And like, I have to take incredible care of myself, and my main thing in terms of the care for myself is I got to make sure my brain works and I got to make sure my knee's okay enough to run from one competition or one floor to the next one and get there. But, the emotions are high. It's a roller coaster and not one, like Abby has a great event and Traven maybe doesn't have the event he wants, or vice versa, or we know one's coming up, and you're just out there sort of like orchestrating this whole beautiful game and flow of all these different athletes, and at the same time you're really doing nothing, like they're just doing all of it, but I'm so invested in that process. I don't know if you saw that meme for time thing of me yelling, like veins popping out of my neck. And I mean, it's intense, and I love it. And off-season stuff is just, he doesn't eat during comps. It's true. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. So there is a lot of sacrifice to be a coach, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love it. And, just feel so blessed to have the great mentors that I had through all the different processes, and then be able to work with these athletes that love it this much, that have this talent, that like get to express themselves in this way. And I get to be a part of that. So I do need a food assistant. Jonathan, I'll see you in California, my friend.
I think he's already there. He could be food prepping
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
he is there. So, gosh, I could literally talk forever about everything that goes into that. But, time away from my wife,
Yeah.
like, I'm literally, I'm living in the travel trailer here for a month so I can be in person with these guys, training them all, 4:30 to 2:30. And it's highs, lows, all of it runs together. And I'm a competitor at heart. And it's funny how, I just always knew I wanted to be the best coach that I could ever be. So everything I was doing when I was competing was like this sort of low key, like, how am I going to apply that someday? How am I going to put that into that? And so that's kind of what's evolved and where Golden Line trainings really come from. So, yeah, I could ramble on, you know, but
you can ramble as much as you want. I mean, this is such a unique perspective. I think this is what's most fun about this, right? Is like, there's no script. There's no, I mean, you guys, these are my notes. There's no, I'm just scribbling down if I'm like, shoot, we forgot to talk about this, or yes, we're going to talk about that. Like,
yeah,
this is real. This is raw. You're passionate. You're fueled. Like, you know, and being an athlete, for anyone who's been in, or even for yourself, you know that, like you're saying, like you kind of make those little mental notes of like, this doesn't last forever. This is finite. The highs, the lows, the moments, the discouragement, the defeat, the success, the injuries, you know what I mean? There's so many things that go into that. And I think that's another unique thing that makes you special as a coach, is it's not just like, yeah, here's a program, do it. Oh, you didn't? Bummer. You know, it's really, right. You're very invested in, and yeah, like you said, for anyone who's watching, I mean, he's literally sitting in his travel trailer in Texas roasting. If you hear anything in the background, that's his air conditioner about to blow out.
Right.
So it's very, I think it's a unique thing. I mean, you mentioned two things. You mentioned falling in love with CrossFit, and you mentioned mentors. Let's go there. What talk to me more about, you know, what do people not know about the Matthew Bryant story? Like what's in your past to give you this, you know, weight on your heart for fulfilling this passion of coaching within the sport for you?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I grew up playing basketball, and I had an injury like in 7th grade, and I injured my ankle really badly, and it grew back wrong and kind of got misdiagnosed. Oh. And so I lost kind of full range of motion in the ankle, and it was always like, you know, I always thought of myself, I thought I was pretty talented, you know, and I worked my tail off, but and you know, I always wanted to play college basketball, and I like found a way to like play college basketball. And so, you know, I learned so much from that. And like, I wanted to play in the pros, you know, like I wanted to keep going further and further and further, but I was just kind of held back in this lifetime for some reason. And, you know, and that's like probably what led me into coaching, is just not being able to continue on and pursue something at that highest level, but still have such a passion for it and such a love for it. And so I found CrossFit right after that, and right after college. And this was like 2006, 2007. And then I graduated 2008. And then I found, you know, Jim Jones before CrossFit. Like I'm not young. Don't let her tell you guys.
I didn't know. I thought you were.
Hey, I'm flattered. I'm not super old, but I'm not. I've
Ladies,
been in the CrossFit space for a long time. Yeah, got my level 1 in 2008, and fell in love immediately. I was in love with it. I was in love with the fluidity of it and all the different things that you had to get good at and all these things. And back then, 2008, James Fitzgerald won the first ever CrossFit Games. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm watching like Every Second Counts and all this stuff. It's funny. I told Abby she had to watch Every Second Counts.
She's like, what?
She was like, well, she did it. And then she was like, why would you make me watch that? She said, no, I'm just, but it's old. You don't know, like, you know, so it's like,
now I really regret saying you're young.
Yeah.
Young. Wink, wink, wink. We'll
right.
Edit that on the audio.
But yeah. So anyways, I was watching James Fitzgerald though, and I always felt like he's a scientist. He was really looking at things deeply, like why we were doing things. You know, I was doing workouts and I was doing them completely differently than my friend, but we were finishing at the same time. You know, and I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on physiologically? What's going on, you know, in the body, nutrition, sleep, health, like lifestyle, everything. So I ended up going and winning a competition that James Fitzgerald put on. And like I said, you're still young, you know, like the sport was young. There weren't enough really great athletes yet. And got linked up with him and ended up moving out to the first athlete camp really that James was having, and Ben Bergeron talked about it on a podcast a while ago, and it was OPT or OPEX. And so I was one of the first athletes that moved out there and made regionals that year and did that. But anyways, I ended up having a mentor in him. And at the time it was me and Max El Haj out there, who owns Training Think Tank. Mm-hmm. So I ended up staying and getting mentored by James for 8 years and having opportunities to travel around and teach, exercise science and in the sport of fitness, and just going down deep rabbit holes with naturopathic doctors. And feel so blessed, so thankful for that guy. Like, he helped me a lot. And I had, like I said, really good mentors early on, and then exposure to tons of athletes. So I've messed it up so many times, like that's part of the game, is just like, as a coach, is getting opportunities. And like I said, like I was intrigued. I wanted to learn. I was a geek. I loved all this stuff, and I was relentless, and I was willing to do whatever it took to be the best coach that I could possibly be. And I plopped me in Scottsdale, Arizona with great mentors. Like, I didn't, do that. I was watching the CrossFit Journal while I was personal training in Springfield, Illinois. And I said, I want to learn from that guy. And it was James Fitzgerald, and it happened, and so that's another avenue for Golden Line training, is the coaching, like the coaches and people that are really interested in coaching and really love coaching and program design and assessment and nutrition and lifestyle and connecting with athletes or connecting with fitness enthusiasts and helping them go from A to B and C to D and move through these things. And, we're going to probably be having some cool courses come out for some of that stuff. So
that's exciting. That's really cool. Talk to me about who's on your team, or tell me a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Greg Strootman, who coaches Rachel Fricker, who's a semifinalist over in the East. He also coaches Beth, who just finished 7th in the 55 to 59. And Greg's been with me. I coached Greg many moons ago. And yeah, the OG Golden Line 5. That's an interesting story. I've had a couple of people with me for a very long time. And so Greg Strootman and Ricky Kopp is in San Antonio. Amazing coach. And Traven Benton came on this year, and I've been coaching Traven to multiple semifinals, and he's one of those guys that is going to be in the sport for a while. He's got a great shot. He's super talented. He's in love with it. He has all the makings of an incredible coach and is already a really good coach, but down the road is going to be a top level coach. But now for the next few years, he's focused. We're capping him at a really low number to make sure that he can focus on being an athlete and do that. But he's in the trenches, deep in the trenches. So we have his information. Greg has a lot of experience and has been through all my mental, emotional stuff. He's been through all my, everything that I offer and teach, and has now coached a couple people, which on the resume of coaching athletes, like, there's a lot of cool stuff, but to help another coach an athlete to semifinals and then coach a master's athlete to the games has been really just something that's been really fun for me. So yeah, we have an awesome crew, and it's growing. We cap ourselves at a low number to make sure we can actually full on provide one-on-one training, good relationships, good communication. And I've been in some situations as a coach over the many years where just overloaded with too many people and couldn't really do it the way I wanted to do it. So Golden Line is that. It's I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of online remote one-on-one coaching, and just trying to keep it really clean and really authentic and really true and really fun and really potent. And so.
And I talk about Abby a lot because A, she's amazing, but B, because she's also amazing, but C, because
Amazing. Amazing. See?
She is not.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, she is so fun, but she's a phenomenal athlete, but she works for it. And you picked her up. You mentioned earlier finding athletes on the cusp. I mean, Abby's new to the sport. Abby, sorry if you don't want us talking about you. Wink. No, just kidding. But is newer to the sport. And I actually, I'm correct on that one this time. But you picked her up and like she is just transformed in the last 2 years, Talk to me about finding athletes, or do athletes find you, or what do you look for in an athlete? You had mentioned genetic potential. So you have this robust background. You have all these tools and analytics in your tool belt. What do you look for and why?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question, because there's a lot of different things that you can look for, but whether or not they decide to work with you or not is a totally different thing. I think that, after having, 10 times 10,000 hours in principles and like experience over the years, like if when I saw Abby, it was just like, you belong at the game. She had gotten 16th at the syndicate and came to an athlete camp in November, and it was like, you belong at the games. And she knew it too, like Abby has this thing in her specifically where it's like, she has the want, and like, I always talk about the want. There's always the why, and there's always that stuff. And that's cool. And I get it. And I like that stuff. But the want, like when you want something so bad and you don't even know why you want it, like she could do tons of different things, but she's chosen CrossFit and doing it, full time and really going for it. That want is just like sort of this like meant to be thing, like, and so there's athletes that you see that, like Traven Benton has the want, there's other athletes that have that want. Then there's the depth, and the depth is another thing. Sometimes the want, if you have the God-given ability, like the want can drive you into semifinals, the want can get you close to semifinals, depending on what your innate genetic potential is and what you're able to do. But when you have the want and you have the depth, and you're willing to go to certain depths that other people aren't willing to go to. And I'm not talking about just going hard in a workout. I'm talking about getting sun at the right time. I'm talking about hydrating. I'm talking about taking the right supplements and spending the money to do that. I'm talking about getting a coach. I'm talking about, maturing in terms of how much volume can you actually handle. I'm also talking about like understanding yourself mentally and emotionally and even spiritually. Like what, how deep are you willing to go into understanding those things and then getting incredible at them? Like that's something that's really, really cool. And so I love working with athletes that maybe don't have the greatest, innate genetic potential, but they have the want and they have the depth. Mm-hmm. That is so fun to work with, because then we can really put together a beautiful plan and communicate around things and teach as we go and do all of that. But, Abby's a very talented athlete that has the want, and she has the depth, and we're getting into some new goals, and the depth has to continue to grow and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so it's fun to be along the ride for that kind of stuff. And sometimes I feel bad coaching her in person, because I'm like so nitpicky, like, mm-hmm. like almost perfect, like it's like, but it wasn't, so it could be better, like it's intense, and you have to just hold athletes accountable to that. And anytime I do that, she's like, she wants that, same with Traven, same with the team, same with everybody that we coach. So I guess what I look for is people that have the want and the desire, and know there's more out there than just kind of a cookie cutter program to follow and get better that way. But I like working with people that want the depth. They want the individual design. They want the individual lifestyle prescription. They want to go down the rabbit holes. And, one of those letters behind my name is FDN, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And that allows me to run labs, food sensitivity tests, mediated release tests, to do cortisol testing, to do gut microbiome testing, to, we can go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want, and I don't meet very many people that want to go as deep as I do.
Well, and I think that's really important too, is like you vibrate at that higher level. Like you live your life at that level. You express yourself in that very authentic, based value system that you've established for yourself. And so when you look to an athlete, I would assume, and at least what I've gathered, is you're looking for that mutual reciprocity. You're looking for that mutual benefit for both. I'm going to put in as much as I can. And I've done all these things within myself to be able to pour a lot from my cup. You as an athlete need to match that,
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I cut you off there. But
go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the other favorite things is when people come in with that and they stick it out, it's interesting to see Traven Benton in his 4th year of CrossFit, and Abby Dammit in her, 3rd ever semifinals. And, it's wild to see those guys progress so quickly, but it's so amazing when someone comes in and they've been with me for 3 years and it takes them 3 years to get to be able to play the game, to get on the edge of semifinals, and there's so many people in that boat that do want to go for it, but sometimes it just takes time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm going to come back to that one about quarterfinals. Let me write that one down. But Jonathan has a question here from our YouTube chat. Speaking for Julia, specifically Julia as a Wolverine athlete, she's a active duty military. She's on duty in Australia right now. She's still an athlete. She's still training. She's still getting shit done.
Totally.
The question, who may not have a traditional CrossFit gym or has kind of a life circumstance like that, or a million kids are going through divorce, or I don't really know, but what is going on for the mental side, for the coach, the athlete? What are some of the challenges programming for someone like that who has put in that investment, but blank?
Totally. That's a really good question, because one thing is actually making it fully individualized to her, making sure that her schedule makes sense, that her rest day is not just Thursday and Sunday. It's Thursday and Monday because she has the weekend open. And so it's really about sitting down and listening and hearing what's going to be really available to her, and individualizing that program so potently. So when she wakes up at 4:30 in the morning, she's got the right amount of volume, the right amount of intensity, and also a sounding board on hey, I felt like poop today. What can we move that around? Or hey, hey, I couldn't get to the PM today. Can we move that to the next day? And that's what we provide. I mean, the program is alive. It's not just a piece of paper slapped out and for her to try to work around. We're communicating that highly. And sometimes, I mean, it's funny now because her 4:30 is my afternoon now. And sometimes she'll wake up and I'll be I'm just I'm just going to call her. It'd just be easier, and I'll call her and she's it's 4:15. I'm warming up, and I'm how do you feel today? Do we need to change anything? And so, and listen, that only works if you've got two people invested that highly, right? And she is, and I love working with Julia because she's serious. She's very consistent, and the goal is for her to come back much, much more fit than when she went there. And she doesn't have the perfect circumstances to do that. One thing is mentally, for sure, I have to really keep her make sure she keeps seeing all the blessings right in front of her face, because it is easy to look at other people and be like, man, I wish I had more time, or I wish I could train at a normal person hour, or I wish I could do this, or I wish I didn't have to work 10 hours and then go back or whatever. And so to keep her really just seeing all the blessings right in front of her face all the time, to keep her from wasting any energy on, what isn't real,
Absolutely. That brings up kind of two thoughts for me. One, I guess we'll start with the thought of comparison. When athletes compare themselves to other people, how do you handle that as a coach?
Well, I've got to handle it the way that they handle it. For some people, it gets them fired up a little bit. And it could actually be decent, like looking at all the scores in the Europe semifinal and being like, ooh, okay, yeah, totally, like, ooh, sweet, or like, ooh, got a little work to do, so there's always that aspect of things, but every experience with that is always just a huge learning experience, because everybody's going to handle everything completely differently, and it's like sometimes people get in their heads when they start to compare, and they start self-deprecating, or they start having doubt, right? Where like other people start having like they kind of inflate themselves a little more than they need to inflate themselves to kind of get through that, or hide what's really happening for them, and other people are just stubborn and say it doesn't matter, but it's a sport, it matters, it's such an interesting thing. And I love all of it. I mean, I think one thing that runs rampant in the sport of fitness is impatience.
Yeah.
And so impatience really works on a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and just noticing that, and then teaching them to notice that, like, because then they can see like, okay, I need to be a little bit patient, right? But I mean, CrossFit's so cool because when you first start it, you're like doing things you've never done before. Like you've never done an overhead squat, you've never done a ring muscle up, you've never done all this stuff. So like early on, when your skill adaptation is really high and your training age is really low, you're getting really good at everything really fast.
PR everything.
Yeah, right. We get lots of those people, but then at some point you get to a point where it starts to level out, and then like you can't really be the weekend warrior anymore. Everything you're doing, like you're better at it now, so it requires more recovery. So if you're not willing to make the lifestyle changes, you start to kind of level off and kind of peter out a little bit. But the people that do make the lifestyle changes, their PRs continue on, until they get to that deeper, innate genetic potential, where it's like maintaining a back squat that's really competitive within the sport, but increasing your 2K row by 8 seconds on a year is a huge accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And your skill adaptation and the funky party trick stuff goes way up, right? It's a beautiful thing, and everybody's so different. So mentally, when people are comparing, it's just like you've got to you can't spend too much time in the future. You can't spend too much time in the past. You have to be in the now and not be distracted. And comparing is being in the now and being super distracted, So
I like that. Yeah, I mean, let that one sink in, right?
Yeah,
it's a good way to
one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah. Quick question: the becoming the fittest at everything, the fittest wins. Is that still holding true in CrossFit to you?
Wow. Great question. I don't know if calling it the fittest is always going to be appropriate, just because everybody is so incredibly different. I think, I don't want to call Fikowski out, but I think he said something after Wadapalooza. He was like, yeah, those were the guys on the podium after that set of workouts, and it's, it's true. Like but that's the sport we've chosen. the unknown, unknowable, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it great. And that's why, like, last year, Abby going to the games and stuff, people were like, what, did you get better at coaching, or like, what happened? Like, did you? And I'm like,
I've been around for a while, you say.
Well, I've been around for a while, but like, I no, like, I didn't get better at coaching, but like what I got better at was praying, like, because you're praying for the right judges, you're praying for the right workouts, you're praying for the right circumstances, like, and it all falls into place. And that's why there's like this beautiful thing at the top there where it's like the want indicates the agreement to even be there in the first place. Maybe, like, I don't know, I could go down rabbit holes with that stuff, but it's so cool. So like, maybe it's not the fittest, but you're the best at CrossFit that year and you won it, and congratulations, you were first place. Like, you figured out a way to do it. And that's what's so cool to me.
I like that. Oh, we got a good question. Okay, PDL, we see you. We see you. By the way, they also think that you're devilishly handsome. But I was hoping you'd spit your water out. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what's in your cup. It could be whiskey for all I know. But
I wish.
Just kidding. Question on the YouTube chat. Ask him what he thinks his favorite test is to give to people.
Ooh. My favorite test to give to people.
That's a good question.
Oh, it is a good question. I've got some old school tests that like have they've been challenged by time and they still hold up really well. The good old classic, power clean test from way back in the day, OPT days, power clean 1RM in 8 minutes, rest 2 minutes, and then an 8 minute AMRAP of 90% of your that 1 rep max power clean.
Wow.
And it's, the only reason is like, you can just, I've seen it so many times that, I feel like in coaching, like, you understand the principles, you master the principles, and then you can start like feeling stuff. You're like, oh, it feels like this might, intuition starts playing. And you're like, get really good at intuition, And then after that, it's like seeing. Right? It's like you just see it. And I've seen that test so many times over all the years that like that's all I need to see. I could see that and see their CP battery. I could see that and see, their absolute strength, their speed strength. I can see that and see what their aerobic capacity might be. And do they need to do aerobic power work? Do they need to do sprint work? Do they need to get stronger? Do they need to actually build that battery system? Like, there's just, I always say, if I were to take a test on a island, I'd probably take that one. Just, yeah. And I want to change it so bad, like, I think everything, in CrossFit with coaching, it's like, you want to be so creative and everybody wants something new all the time and everything. And it's like, I've had to like work so hard on my own internal, wants and desires to keep that test around, because I want to change it so bad, but it's so good. It's so useful, and that's an old OPT test from way back in the day.
Well, and truth be told, we do have a tester here. So they say Matt has made me do that with no music and a rested bar. So we're sorry for who hurt you. We have sympathy for you. But I mean, it's true. It's good to know, right? Like, it's actually, you're not just saying this, like, proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah. It's also kind of fun to, be able to have something that's been around so long continue to give so much good information that's useful. I mean, that's the name of the game as a coach. It's like, I'm literally constantly looking for useful information. Mm-hmm. And you just nonstop on anything, food, reactions, talking, sleep, like, you have to look at all that stuff, and it's all coaching really is,
Well, clients and athletes, I guess I should say, I hear things differently. You might say the same principle 12 ways and they only hear it one, right? And I think that's an interesting thing too, is like trying to learn how you have to talk to your athletes, because talking to one is not going to be always the same as talking to the other.
100%. Yeah.
And like dealing with people's personalities, right? Like maybe a more emotional athlete, maybe a more motivated, like hard-nosed, yell at me kind of person. Like, I don't know. It's all
Totally.
different.
Yeah. 100%.
You mentioned CP battery. Tell our, I know where we're at here, but for our listeners, CP battery, why is it useful? Why do you care? What should somebody look for? How do they test it? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, after kind of being in the program design world for a long time, like the names don't really matter, right? Like all that really means is doing something that's fast and heavy, and then doing something fast and heavy close to that max a lot of times.
That's such a good way to break that down.
Right? Like that's all it means, like it sounds so wild and crazy, but that's what it means. So like, it might actually these days, we never know. Depends on what elevation you're at and whatnot, but no, so CP battery, right? Like, but that's what that is. It's just how many reps you can do close to that 1 rep max. And why is that so important? Because, you get to see what's in between the reps, like when you have a big burst of energy, how quickly do they recover so they can do the next rep? That's what battery means, right? And so you're observing the battery, you're observing how quickly they recover. And then you're looking at like, well, why isn't, ATP replenishment happening quickly in this athlete? Or why is it happening quickly in this athlete? Or maybe the athlete's not powerful enough to actually produce enough power to bring the battery down low enough so their aerobic capacity just goes through the roof and they could do 40 reps, Or maybe they're a really powerful athlete and that's just their essence. It's just the way that they are. And that 1 rep is like, battery gone, And then what are they doing? They're struggling to rest and recover. And you're watching that and you're observing that. It's like, well, it probably means that their aerobic capacity is just not good enough to recover quickly. So what do you need to do? You need to make them more aerobic, possibly even dampen their absolute strength, So like, I mean, I could go down a lot of different rabbit holes with that, but it's like, it's so useful because you see the truth. And that's something with athletes is like most of the time when somebody comes in and like, I'm not trying to scare people, but like when you come in, like I can't work with you with all this junk around you. I can't work with you with all these distractions and all this junk and all this stuff. And you say you want to do this, but you have all these leaks in your life, emotional stress, food, habits, this, that. I have zero judgment on any of that stuff. Zero. But you got to be willing to clean that stuff up so we can start moving and you can utilize all of your stuff. And I call that like, you got to find out who you are, like who are you really? Like if we can't get you to sit at a body weight that is consistent, then who are we working with or what are we working with, And so, and sometimes it takes years to even just get that uncovered, because that's like uncovering the noise. And that's why I love like the mediated release food sensitivity tests, where it's like an immunological response to how much does your immune system respond to the food that you're putting into your body, right? And it's not like a regular food sensitivity test. And so you want as much immune capacity as possible so you can recover from the split jerks that you did that day, And so get all the inflammation out, clean up the noise, and you're going to work from your true space, right? And that's what I love. And I think you do a little bit of that as well with your nutrition stuff. So it's like, that's the beauty, is like cleaning the slate and finding out where people really are and then letting them find that out. And then you accept it and then you get really good at it. That's like so fun. Life is so fun, it's a beautiful thing. It's really cool.
Yeah. And it's, you mentioned one thing I say it a lot is like reducing the noise, right? Reducing the noise, but then we're going to fall victim to the strength of our systems. And however strong or weak your systems are, that's as far as you have to go. and until those
Right.
things, like you said, until you work on those things and until you clean those things up and clean up those behaviors, you will stay where you're at until you
Right.
do. And that's a hard truth. And sometimes you have people in coaching and you're just, and I don't know if you guys do this, maybe not at the level athlete you're dealing with, or maybe sometimes that's going to be what limits them. And sometimes that's going to be the thing where, like, I, as a coach, I'm going to stop us right here because I'm going to go ahead of you and you're not going to be able to keep up. And this is just where we're going to part, because I'm not going to be, sitting here harping you when I know that the work isn't being done fundamentally at the foundational level. Right. And that's a hard one. I mean, have you had to let I say clients a lot. Have you had to let athletes go, or like part ways with them in the past? I mean, I know I've coached a million people, but, have you had to kind of like sever that tie because of where the athlete was at and being unable to get them where they need to go, or where they say they want to go because of their systems?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sometimes. But it's usually this thing where, like, sometimes people just can't help it, like that. It's just where they're at. It's just how they're experiencing this lifetime, and it's like sometimes a brick wall 50 times is the greatest teacher and exactly what they need,
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, I've gotten past I don't let people go anymore. I'm like, I'll hang out with these brick walls all day with you. Mm-hmm. Until you don't want to do that anymore, until you want to, see this. But it's like almost always, I'm only speaking from experience. Like, I mean, so many brick walls, but I love the saying, like, you can either go to your knees or be brought to your knees. Love that saying. And it's like, a lot of people like to be brought to their knees multiple times before they're like, okay, like I'll do it. I'll make the changes,
Uh-huh.
And, but sometimes those brick walls are exactly what people need too, So like, I can't totally dictate like what it is someone needs, like, I'm not going to say I know exact, most of the time I can like use some fluidity and maneuver things and speak to them through the programming to like nudge them through or help them get over that brick wall and then have the next brick wall come up,
Mm-hmm.
But coaching's just such a cool experience and such a cool relationship with people, I've learned so much. Like, I wanted out. There was a time I wanted out. I was like, I'm done. Like, this is it, and I got sucked back in. And it was just like one of those want things or one of those agreements or whatever. It's like, what else would I be doing in this lifetime? Like, I'm just here to do this, So, but yeah, that's a tough one. And it's hard to watch sometimes, but you can communicate that with people too, like, are we ready for another brick wall? It actually, you like make it a little funny and like, but the truth.
Put your helmet on.
Yeah. Well, you said, I talk about this in our athlete camps a lot, but like, you said it's a hard truth. It's like, well, the truth is expansive, mm-hmm. whether you like it or not. Like, the only way to expand is the truth, And so if you want to expand into these bigger containers of aerobic system, these bigger containers of your potential, these bigger containers, like, you have to look at the truth. You have to find the truth. You have, like, be a predator, like, go for it, look for it. Like, I'm a truth junkie, and it took me a long time to get there, and it was horrifying,
Yeah. I think that's a big thing too for people like listening, or myself, or thinking about my journey, or people I know, or you. To find that depth, you have to start with truth, almost, right? It's almost to like go with your sequence of why, want, depth. It's like truth comes first, right? And then truth kind of like fiddles its way all the way through, because you still have to face that, and you still have to look at the mirror and see that come to fruition throughout time. And for people who, I guess, are not as experienced as an athlete, right? Or who are new to a weight loss journey, who are in a CrossFit gym, or just in general, you know what I mean? Who haven't built that resiliency quite yet. That like, how many times can I smack myself in the head on the wall before I get over the wall? You know, what do you find between like the mental and physical exhaustion and a younger athlete or a younger, less resilient individual? What are some tools of advice that you can give them to help develop that resiliency through their journey, whether they're hopping in classes, doing their random thing? What are some tools maybe that have helped you in your life or that you use with some of your athletes to build that or to start to?
Yeah, definitely. You know, one is like, just don't let impatience be an obstacle that keeps you from what you are going for. Like when you want to quit, that's when you need to keep going, you know? And if you actually truly do want what it is that you say you want, you know, seek help with that. I have coaches for everything. I have coaches that coach me on how to take care of my plants. Like you know, like coaches are useful, you know, and this is not like a sales pitch. Like, I don't care if you work with us. Like I'm like, it is an accelerated, a mentor, a coach, all those things, people that know a little bit more about what it is you're trying to do or have done what you did, or, you know, are teaching that or whatnot, you know, but don't let impatience be the obstacle that stands in your way. You have to keep going. And if you want to go faster, you know, lessons and teachers are accelerators. That's what it really is. So, and ask questions, be willing to do crazy things. Like I always like it costs me more than my monthly price as a coach to talk to my mentors for an hour now. You know, like, I mean, I am willing to put it out there because I want to learn and I want to help people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's kind of like, be proactive, right? Like when you see the things that you really want to do, when you have troubles, when you have these things, like, you know, I have a really amazing teacher, and he's always like, Matt, your eyes are in the front of your head, not on the side. And like, when your eyes are on the side, like that's prey, like a rabbit, right? But like, we're predators, like we're built to hunt. And we don't have anything to hunt anymore, you know? Like, so you can choose to hunt out information, hunt some help, hunt resources to help you get that help, hunt, you know, how to do things a certain way. Like, you know, you know, so be a predator and be proactive, moving towards what you want. And, don't let any excuses, or don't fall victim to anything, because everything's hard. Everybody's having a hard time. Everybody's, you know, it's all there. And depending on what level of athlete you are, like, you know, everybody's good. And hard work isn't, I'm sorry, like, that's not it anymore. Everybody works hard. Everybody works harder than they should, probably. Like, they're not really managing intensities, and like, you know, like but everybody's working hard. So like, to find an edge is knowledge. It's understanding. It's working, you know, with people that have been where you want to be, and you know, or keep guessing, and you can go that route, you know. So that, I don't know if that was helpful or not. But.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's unique to your perspective, which is fun about why we do this. Because everyone's different, right? And to be able to like actually hear it from your mouth, like, that's a really big deal for me, for our listeners, for anyone who's tuning into this. I mean, what a brilliant thing. I mean, people pay a lot of money to work with you, and people do a lot of things to work with you. And to sit here and to have your knowledge shared with us is a pretty beautiful blessing for us all, which is cool. What are you excited about? Like, I kind of want to talk about quarterfinals penalties.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of don't. I don't. Do you?
We can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, let's look at it from the perspective of, did you have athletes affected? How did it affect those? Or when you were watching what was happening, what was kind of the stress of that for you?
I will only speak from just absolute truth and no speculation here, because it's a little gray in a lot of areas, and many people had different experiences. So I can't speak to like whether people were really getting no reps or really not getting no reps or any of that. But Traven Benton did have no reps, and he actually did that first workout 4 times, because the first time he did it, we were like, dude, your reps don't look great. You need to do it to make sure your reps look great. The second time he did it, it wasn't good enough. And then the third time he did it, we were like, I think there's reps that don't look great. You got to do it again. And we got to make sure you get like, I mean, this is the level. This is what it is. This is what it takes as a high level athlete. You have to, one, you got to have the volume to be able to do that. Right. Yeah. In your training. But, you know, so he did it again. Then he gets a major penalty. And we're like, what? You know? And I got to admit, like my mind went to a lot of really dark places. It's funny, you know, like I was talking to my dad. I was like, all right, you know, this might be the last year. Like CrossFit's just going to shut it down. Like this is crazy, you know? And he's kind of like in, but not in. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's like, I think you say that every year, man.
Like, have you eaten anything today? Maybe you should go eat.
Yeah, you know, so anyways, you know, like my mind went to a lot of really dark places, but I had to like stay really positive and stay, you know, good. So like we're looking at his video, and I'm like, you look at it, I'll look at it, you know, have Alex look at it, the guy that owns the gym that he's at, and all the support's looking at this, and we all come back and we're like, there's definitely 3, you know, and was out of our hands. We waited, we appealed, they came back. They changed 33 reps to 3 no reps.
Wow.
And they did the right thing.
Yeah.
Like he did it 4 times to make sure, you know, like his reps were good. Yeah. And they did the right thing. So like for me, you know, like I said, I'm pretty good at praying, you know, like, I don't know if that had anything to do with that, but like for me, like it just like that fully, I was like, man, I don't know how I feel about this anymore, you know? So like, but they did the right thing, and we were super blessed to have him do the right thing for us. And he's going to move on, you know? And, but in the depths of the moments and the people that you know didn't get it back, it's like, you know, I feel bad for them. Whole years, you know, a whole year out the window. It's heartbreaking. Like I know how much energy I put into coaching, and you know, I have a different sort of pain that I envelop as a coach, but like the physical pain and like the suffering and the sacrifice these athletes make is just through the roof. So like, I would love to just have a situation where like that would never happen. But yeah. I don't have the answer for that. I'm not going to pretend I have the answer for that. And I'm not going to complain about all of it. But that's kind of how I feel, you know? I feel they did the right thing for us, but boy, they scared us really bad.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it weighs on your spirit, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're a spectator, whether you're just like new to the community, whether you don't care what happens at the CrossFit Games. It kind of, I mean, it's dampening, you know?
Well, you know, yeah. And it was kind of like, man, you know, Abby got second at the West, but it was like, you know, like, because everybody was worried about this thing, you know, and it got so much publicity. And that's something that I think like with CrossFit, it's like, you know, yeah, of course there's problems. There's problems in the world. There's problems in everything that is big that's happening, you know, but focusing 100% on only seeing the problems isn't going to help anything, you know. It's like, there's a lot of really good things that are happening. And, you know, I do my best to try to only see the good try to see the good things, but not just let it slide under the rug either, because I do stand by what I said. Like, I want that to never be a possibility for anybody ever again, because these people that got the no reps, they were fit. They just maybe did the movements wrong a little bit, you know? So it's like, are we getting the most fit and blah, 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 right? So, yeah. Yeah. You know,
It's hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's good, but it's variable and it's adaptable. And I think you mentioned when we were talking about Miss Julia, from a coaching standpoint, you mentioned keeping your sight on the gifts in front of you, or the button, you know, on the good in front of you. And I think it's easy with the internet to just be like what gets clicks is negative things. What gets clicks are people falling. Especially falling from the top. You know, I mean, nobody loves anything more than the king or queen falling. So I think it's kind of an interesting, I don't know, kind of perspective too. Like, are we looking for the good? Are we looking for the light? Are we looking for the stories? You know, are we looking for the overcoming and I know that sounds like kind of frou-frou, but I mean, that's kind of life in a nutshell, right? Like the resiliency of building up to that success, because there's 100 failures that came before that success that we don't see often.
Yeah. And man, I mean, CrossFit is amazing. I wouldn't still be around like if I didn't love it so much. And like it's such a good tool for people to like learn about themselves. I mean, because there's no room for leaks, you know.
No.
Like, you gotta look at stuff if you want to keep going. Like, you gotta look at stuff, you know. And it really helps like wake, you know, people up that use physicality in their life to learn, you know. And I love working with people that learn from doing physical things, you know. It's just kind of how I played basketball, and that was my life, you know, and I learned so much from it. So there's so much great stuff with CrossFit, and I love it so much. And I just want to see it be successful and continue to be successful and continue to grow and continue to give opportunities to athletes to express themselves and learn about themselves, you know, and have geeks like me, you know, be support for those people along the way, you know?
Yeah, I love that. What are you looking forward to most for this weekend for semifinals? I know probably maybe if someone's listening to this a little bit later on in life, you know, in the calendar year, but what we do have coming up, if you miss it in the beginning, is we do have semifinals. So what are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, man. Carson, you know, like, yeah, I mean, I coached a lot of good masters athletes to the games there. I went there all the time. I was with Jamie Hygia back in the day when she went to the games, and Amanda Goodman and all these athletes that have been around for a long time. And I can't wait to just be in the flow, in the intensity, and in the vibes that the tennis court bring, because it's juicy, you know. It's like so good. And there's an intensity to it, and there's a nostalgia to it, which is like with Jamie Hygia, coaching Jamie Hygia at 39. She makes a comeback after multiple years, and then she accidentally makes semifinals as an individual, and she's going back to Carson. So we're going to all go train at Torrance Training Lab at her place. And so it's just a fun story. It's fun to go back. California's weather's beautiful. Like, you know, I lived there for a little while. Just a smidge better than Texas. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to go back to Carson and just be in the thick of things. And just, you know, hopefully, and, you know, by the end, we're all really happy with the outcome. And you know, we've got people get what they've been working for with us. And I know people, you know, Abby's dialed, Traven's dialed, the team's dialed. You know, Jamie's going to go and have a great time and really push herself and push and shake up the leaderboard and see where she lands. You know, who knows? And so it's always fun to get to game day, you know? And this is at such a high level of importance. Like, it's do or die. Wadapalooza, it's not the end of the season, you know? Like those things, like those are fun, but those are fine tuners. Those are like, you know, let's not peak out completely for this, like, because we have, you know, whatever afterwards, or we need to start training. So, but this is like, you empty the tank. In the workouts this year for semifinals, they're not technical enough, and there's not like, the weights aren't crazy enough that it's going to bottleneck, you know, the upper level people. So you want to talk about depth. It's whoever's willing to go and make them hurt the worst, you know. That's CrossFit. That's classic, good, beautiful, fun CrossFit. So I think they did a nice job with the workouts, you know. Of course, like, you know, I wish some things would have been a little different for each athlete, you know, but I think it's just going to be really fun. So,
do you have a favorite event?
Oh man. If I were to pick a favorite event, I like all of them. You know, I do like the snatch event because, you know, talking about CP battery and stuff like that, it's not just a 1 rep max, which is cool. It is high rep overhead squat volume that people aren't necessarily looking at. They're just thinking snatch. It's like, well, that's 30 overhead squats too. And managing rest periods and things like that. I just think the athleticism of that workout is through the roof, you know. In CrossFit, everything's task oriented, right? It's like anybody can learn how to do a snatch in a certain amount of time. Anybody can learn how to walk on their hands in a certain amount of time. But like knowing yourself between rest periods, like that is athleticism. That is beautiful. And like the greatest athletes, the Matt Frasers and the Tias, and those athletes, like they just know themselves so well. When you watch an athlete go at the perfect time on a barbell, like that is so beautiful to me. You know, it's like, that's athleticism. That's like knowing yourself so deeply. So the snatch one's really cool. I like that one. I'm glad they didn't throw like a ramp into the handstand walk. It's just pure go. It's just go juice, you know? I mean, that one's interesting. And it's how deep can you go and how deep are you willing to go on the rower, you know? There's a lot of beauty in athletes understanding risks that are appropriate to them for this weekend, because to be in the top 8, top 9, top 10, like you're going to have to take risks that are appropriate to you. And a risk that is appropriate to you is always right on the edge, you know? That's kind of why I called it golden line, because it's like, that's kind of what that means. It's like, it's not too much and it's not too little. It's the exact amount. And that goes for like everything. It's kind of the middle way idea. And it's like, I've got some really amazing teachers that, you know, talk about that stuff in Santa Fe a lot. And they use the term gold line actually. And so, you know, it's like right on the golden line. It's such a beautiful thing to observe. And that goes for nutrition and sleep and hydrating and mental game and fitness and, you know, volume, you know, management and intensity management and everything, you know. And that's why, like, I get to see that in everybody I work with. And it's completely different in everybody that I work with, you know? So that's what I'm passionate about, is observing that and seeing that. And, you know, maybe I'm just like secret. I'm like just really selfish because I learned so much from getting to go deeply into that with everybody, you know?
That's pretty beautiful. Oh, I'm all like hype. I'm all geeking
out.
Go! Yeah, I'm like, oh.
Go set up the snatch ladder. Let's go.
Oh man. Oh, I hope our viewers feel that way too. The snatch is just fun. It's such a unique thing, you know, and people prepare all year for it, and you prepare all year for it, and so Oh man. Well, I guess we should just hype in the semifinals. I mean, truthfully, this has been amazing, Coach. It's been so fun to talk with you. Thank you to our listeners, to our viewers, to people who have chimed in on the chat. Swole Friends Podcast, you can subscribe to it. Golden Line Training. Go to the website, go to the Instagram, go follow Matthew on Instagram. Is there another way that people should contact you, or?
Yeah, Golden Line Training on Instagram, and then of course goldenlinetraining.com, and I'll talk to you for free. Like, it's like I've got a little button there that says book a call if you're interested, and we make sure that it's always a really good fit, and like people are serious, and we've got no judgment on anything. So it's a good, fun talk. And take advantage of that. I love talking to people about their fitness goals and where they are. So, but yeah, goldenlinetraining.com and Golden Line Training Instagram. We love hearing from people. So
it's pretty awesome. This week we also have here at Swolverine, we have our little docu-series with Abby coming out. We're going to post that, I think maybe today. We should do that. We'll put it in the email with the announcement for the podcast here with Coach Matt, kind of learning a little bit more about Abby as a person, where she's going as an athlete, which she's been through in the past. So that's going to be a fun one. Make sure to subscribe to the Swole Friends podcast. Say what's up to Matt. Take up his time. Just take it up for the right reason. No.
Thank you.
Cough. Don't take up his time for the wrong reason. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.